No matter the oppression, Iranian women have found a way to heal and express themselves through creativity. Come join us today on this beautiful journey as we meet Avin Rostami, journalist, poet, and educational therapist from Norway.
So, Grow Your Ideas Talk Show is a live talk show that celebrates the courage it takes to grow your ideas. My name is Laverne Wyatt, and I am truly passionate about meeting inspiring people from all walks of life that, no matter the obstacles they faced, still chose to grow and complete their idea. Many people have seeds of ideas planted in them through life experiences, and we're going to discuss some of those today. But what does it take to water them? What does it take to nurture them? And how does it feel to actually complete it and get it into full bloom? That's what I'm very interested in. This show has a motto, which is to keep it smart, real, and funny. And that's why I have you today, because you're all of those things. So welcome, Avin Rostami. Okay, so you are a poet. I will say journalist, because you also write for Utrop magazine. And you have 2 master's degrees, which I eventually had to pull the information out of her about. I'm like, you need to tell us about this. And this is another thing about being comfortable with being visible and putting your accomplishments out in the world. And that's why I'm here, to help you do that. So your masters are in education. Yes.
And psychosocial working.
Psychosocial working.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Closer. That's good. Okay. Not only that, the interesting thing is when I go into your Instagram, I just scroll and I see wonderful pictures of you, of course, you're a beautiful woman. But I also read this intensely personal, deep poetry. And some of it was really moving for me. And I thought, what better way to not only talk about what you do, but we can actually hear about what you do. So my plan for today is to read your poem and ask you a question so that we can get a feel of who you are as a creative person, not just as a creative person, but as a woman, not just as a woman, but as an Iranian woman in Norway, choosing and daring to put your heart and soul on the internet. So the first poem that really touched me was, they say I must be really brave, traveling all alone. I wonder what they would say if they knew what the younger me survived, putting the pieces back together.
Yeah.
When I read this, it was funny because I just experienced a few days ago that, you know when you meet someone in a situation and you thought that everything was okay, and I'm fine, and I'm doing everything, and it's fine, and then they just trigger something in you that realizes that there are pieces still there. And in their presence, they're sort of helping you to put it back together. And it's messy, it's emotional, it's ugly crying type of ugly.
Of course.
But it's also beautiful. So that was my experience, and I want to know from you, who was it that helped you put back the pieces? That's my first question. And what was it from your childhood that planted those seeds to allow you to grow such beautiful words?
Well, I will start to say thank you so much for having me. It's like a childhood dream for me to be here to talk about my poetry and to be presented as a poet. But I don't see myself as a poet yet. I hope I can be it in the future. This poem, I actually wrote it in Prague. I was there for 2 weeks ago, celebrate my first alone birthday. I turned to 36, and I chose to travel by myself because I think I needed it. I have been in a personal journey the last 2 years, so this poem is very personal, actually. For me, the inspiration to writing, it comes from my childhood, and I think it comes really from my father, as he is a writer. He do write novels in Kurdish, in poetry. And my strength to write or to express myself as a woman, it comes from my mother. So it's like a quite interesting mix. And they have been supporting me all my life. My friends, my sisters, people I meet. I think you can find um, inspiration everywhere if you search for that. If you have an open mind about changing and growing your mind, and you're trying to redirect yourself in life in general, actually. Yeah.
I understand this. I think everybody can find inspiration, but why aren't more of us becoming poets then? You know, it's like what is it that actually motivates you then to take it from inspiration to actually sitting down and writing something and putting it out in the whole wide world?
Oh, it's difficult to answer this. I think it comes natural for me to use my words. I have been loving writing all my life, actually, as little also. I think the writing was in a very chaotic life, which I lived as a political refugee. Writing was my escaping space, where I could be me and fantasy about life and dreams. And I have like really very clearly memory from my childhood. I think I was about 8, 9 years. I remember in the refugee camp, we did celebrate the Women's National Day very highly every time, every year. And I remember a really beautiful woman. I think she was about 19, 18 year, 20, I don't know. She was reading a poem, or she was performing a poem in this program. And I remember I was like, one day I want to be like her. And this like sticked with me all my life. But I had to overcome very personal journey and transformation before I could be brave enough to use my words. And later I see people can relate to those things I write, and it motivates me really a lot.
Definitely. I always think feelings in a personal journey, like I said before, is like a flower.
Yeah.
It's fragile and it goes through all these different stages from sprouting and growing and blooming. But in order to do that, you need the right people around you, you know, to sustain you, to nurture you.
Of course.
And you need some belief, whether it's self-belief, believe in religion, or believe in nature. It has to be something that you can draw, like I say, you draw sunlight from it, you know, to
I
really
think I
help you.
believe in the good in humanity. I think that. I think if we are curious about the humanity, if you are curious about to know each other, we will find the potential in each other, and we will grow as individuals together. In Norway, we have very narrative where we just focus about the individuals. But my background is from the very collective way of thinking, So this mix is actually good because I need to be more brave as an individual to express myself, my feelings, without to be afraid. What about my family and my relatives, my people? But at the same time, we are all connected, So what I experience, what I write about, will also affect people around me.
Definitely, definitely. I can totally relate. I come from South Africa and we have a saying called Ubuntu, and it means I am because we are.
Yeah.
So that's I am hungry because we are hungry, or I'm eating because we are. You know, there's this interconnectedness, dependency, and there's much more focus on the relationship between people than the relationship between people and things. You know, it's a very different. So I also had to go to the same thing of okay, now you have to be I am because I am. And learn how to deal with that part and become stronger, you know? So it is a way to grow in all different directions.
And I think that the beautiful thing about to be multicultural, as I see myself as an individual, as a woman, I feel I have this opportunity to choose the best from two very different worlds, from the very individual thinking world to the very collective way of thinking and living, and connecting this and taking the best of them make me like a bit stronger, I think, actually.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it also gives you a different perspective because one of your poems you wrote, which is coming back to There's been a lot of media focus on Iranian women and their struggle for freedom and for rights. And I know that you've also been on Inner Core, you've been in other places where you suddenly have to be the person now to be like the voice to represent a lot of other people. And this is one of the poems that you wrote. They may be able to poison young girls, but they can't silence people that are seeking freedom and democracy. Nations that have got enough of a regime that have poisoned them for ages.
Yes. And yeah, this actually, it was difficult to write this one because lately it has been on media. The Iranian regime has poisoned young girls at school to shut down the protests. And it's really difficult to just watch it from above, from Norway, without have the ability to do anything with it. So the only thing we can maybe do, or for me, I feel that my only way to help or to support this movement is being their voice, being the voice of the voiceless, you know. And I think sometimes it's like also a way for me to really handle all of this emotionally, you know, because it affects us a lot. It's about my pupil. It's about the young girls who actually go to school to learn, to have big dreams, to have goals in life, but at the same time, they will like it's not safe, and it's like it's difficult to understand that it happens in our age, you know. Yeah.
It's difficult. And I think when we're sitting on this side and you have the TV, you know, you have multiple degrees of separation from your everyday life and what you're witnessing. And we're also dependent completely on the narrative of the journalists and what type of questions they are asking about the situation. So I want to know from you as an insider, in a way, what type of questions should we be asking about the women and the Iranian women and the situation as it stands today?
I think we should go out of this narrative that the protests in Iran is about clothing. It's not. It's actually not. It's about much more. It's about freedom of choice, freedom of speak. It's about democracy. It's about in Iran you don't have just a nation. You have different nations. You know, you have different minorities. It's about human rights. It's about women's rights. It's about children's rights. It's about so much more. It's about the fundamental rights of being a human. You know, and taking this down to just be about the way people use their scarf or not. It's not. It's like seeing in this way. It makes me a bit angry actually because it's much more. People has been suffering in so many years to fighting for democracy, for equal rights, for freedom of speech, for freedom of taking care of nature. These people has been suffering in over 40 years, you know. So for me, it's important to take it out and say that, hello, stop. It's not about the scarf. It's like a little tiny part of this, you know. Yeah.
Almost like the scarf is a metaphor
Of course,
for
yeah.
what's really happening. How do you think this has affected Iranian women's creativity and the way they are allowed to express themselves creatively?
I think it has empowered them. I have to mention that the whole this movement started in the Kurdish area with the slogan Jin Jian Azadi, which means woman, life, liberty, which I am actually a Kurdish woman from Iran.
Can you explain the difference for us that do not know the difference?
So in Iran, you have different nations. Kurdish people are about 10 to 11 millions in Iran. They are being seen as minority, but Kurdish people want independence in Iran. And you have all the different minorities in Iran. But the biggest nation in Iran are Farsi-speaking people, and it's difficult to understand if you don't have this link to in the inside. But this is like an ongoing battle. Also in Norway, because the Iranian people, or Kurdish, or Persian, Baluchis, they are not all agree about how things should be. But one thing we agree about that this regime have to go. And for me, as a Kurdish woman, it's not only about the woman's right, it's about the right as Kurdish people to have the ability to talk in your own mother language, you know. Okay. It's not allowed in Iran. People has been excluded because they speak or sing in their own language.
That sounds so similar to growing up in apartheid.
Uh,
Yeah, I understand. When I was going to school, even though all my family from my mom and my dad's side are Xhosa, like Nelson Mandela, Trevor Noah, that's the only nearest examples I can give anybody that they might recognize. And then the reason why I look the way I look is because there were German missionaries coming to spread the word of God, and obviously much more. And then we get, this type of mix. But growing up in school, we weren't allowed to learn our own languages. So I had to grow up and learn English. Obviously, we had that as a first language. And we had to learn Afrikaans, which is like Dutch, which absolutely nobody speaks in the entire fylke or province I come from.
yeah.
So I couldn't understand. Everybody spoke Zulu and Xhosa and English. We weren't allowed to learn any of them in school. And then what happens is we got the regime change, like they're fighting for now. And then it sort of switched around where you're supposed to now know these languages because that regime is now taken over, but you don't.
Yes.
As an adult in your own country, you don't know your own native languages, from your own ancestors. And then you're sort of stuck between these two worlds. So I think that with language is so important. And working with what you do today as a specialist educational therapist, how do you try to champion this belief about your own mother tongue and language when you come across other Kurdish families or Kurdish kids that you work with?
I think in general, I am more aware about how language and mother tongue affect how we speak and how we connect as a human and affect the relationships. And I have been not in this work place I have now, but before I have meeting people who just speak really everyday language in Norwegian with their children, and they forget to speak in their mother language with their children, and it make a distance from them, it affect the way they connect and the way they share love, the way they share a connection to each other. And I think it's actually sad. We should have more focus on that. And I have this in my mind every time about how people use language in connection and in communication to each other. And I think for me, writing poetry in Norwegian was a bit difficult because I feel in Kurdish and I write in Norwegian.
And
it's
English.
difficult in English also, yeah, sometimes.
So that's not easy.
Yeah.
It's an interesting debate, that with language and mother tongue, because I've had a lot of Norwegians ask me like, oh, you speak English with your children. I'm like, okay, if you were raising your kids in China, would you be speaking Chinese to them at home in the morning before breakfast? No, it'll be no. But as soon as I give a reverse example, it becomes like, oh, of course,
Yeah.
So I usually find giving a reverse example is more effective than trying to over-explain or, defend why I think it's important. Because obviously, usually it's I know when I was living in South Africa, I lived in my bubble. I didn't care what foreigners were going through or what they thought. Not at all. I just cared about going to work, being with my family, doing your everyday thing. And I feel everybody lives in a bubble when they're living where they are and they don't have to deal with so much. So it's always good to give the examples that are out of the bubble. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. I'm never going to ask that question again. Some people will be like. But what advice could you give now to other women or girls that are sitting with a lot in their heart and on their mind? And maybe they're too scared to share it because you're sharing your deepest feelings online, and maybe they're too scared of people or society or their culture that they're parts of, commenting on the fact that they're being so open, because you can be closed with the way you dress, but being very open with your feelings, is that allowed, for example? And what type of response could they expect? And what type of encouragement would you give them to try anyway?
I think you ask about a lot of different, really interesting topics. I have a cup in home. It's like a great reminder for myself. It's written in Norwegian. It says like that. It goes like that. You either win or you learn. That's like my mission for life. Go out and do that. If you fail, you will learn from that. If you win, you win, and sometime you have to. I think the big battles we have to do is confronting of self, and to see our fears in the eye. When we have done that, it doesn't matter what people think. And when you to do try to go out there and do your stuff and express yourself in the way in a creative way, someone like it, someone doesn't. Some people will relate to that, or some will not understand that. But at the same time, uh, what if you don't do that? When I think it's like, for me it's like that. I will see back. I will imagine when I'm 8 years old, and I want to look back and I want to feel that I don't have any regrets. That I have done all of that I want to do. And yeah, we learn all the time, and as Dewey says, you're learning by doing. So it's like that for me. I think we should to go out there to try to use our creativity to find the purpose of life. For me, my purpose of life is to use my own experience, my own childhood traumas from war, my relationship experiences, my own personal journey, to write about that and to maybe connect to other people that are seeking change.
That's fantastic. How how do you think it's been possible to connect with men that want to support the change that's been going on with women in Iran? Because I feel like I haven't been hearing much of them. It's sort of, I feel like the narrative's been like all men are against the change and all the women want the change, and there's like nothing in between. So we'd love to hear your perspective on that.
I think this movement in Iran, the protests are highly protected and supported by men. Several artists uh, are actually in jail because they have been supporting this movement, and many academic people has been really active in Norway also, with Iranian background. So I don't think there is any men who are actually for freedom, for democracy, that don't support this journey. And I think one of the great things you see in social media is how the men go out actually and talk about the brave women who have actually keep continuing to go out to take part of this protests. Yeah.
Mm, mm. That's fantastic. I feel like sort of the publicity of the protests have died down for a while.
Mm.
And I know that doesn't usually mean that the fight has gone away.
No, it's not. It's continuing
It's
on high
continuing
level.
on a high level. So can you tell us of anybody that you might know personally, anyone that's also an artist or a creative, that is using that situation that they find themselves in to create?
Um, through my activity the late 4 or 5 months, I have been able to connect with other people with very different activists. And I hope that they continue to share on social media, that they continue to make arrangements, events about this topic, which we will be having later here too. And I think it's important that we continue to write about that, to go out in media, to talk about that. And yeah, I think we should, it take a lot to change a regime like Iran. We can't expect that will happen overnight. I think this will be continuing some months more or maybe years. We don't know, but the people in Iran are living in that. At least we should support them from Norway, from our freedom, use our freedom, and to support them and to be their voice. So for me, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to say concrete what we should do, but use social media, write about that, talk about that with people who maybe don't have this link to Iran. Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of other creative people that are not from Iran that are inspired by the story, that want to do something, like you're doing today. What advice do you have for them? What if somebody wants to contact you? You know, is it an organization they can contact, or does it just, you know, how can they use their gifts of creativity effectively to really support the protests?
I think making contact with people who are active, it's one of the way. It's interesting you ask about that. I got knowing a Norwegian poet. He wrote about this. He had a poem. He don't have any link to Iran, but he had wrote about this in a poem about how it feels to be from Iran with one foot in here in the democracy and freedom in Norway, and one foot in Iran, and trying to maintain sane, at the same time, because it's how it feels for us who have this connection to Iran, because it's an ongoing trauma. So for me, it feels very safe and good to see people who don't also have any connection directly to Iran use their voice, use their words to encourage and to inform people outside who don't know this, what's happening. I think we should use more art to tell the story of people. We don't have a really good um, uh, organization which works across different nations and many regions from Iran, unfortunately. But there are a lot of people who are active, especially in Oslo.
Okay, well, I think we just found your next calling to start the organization that goes across cultures
It's
and
some, but
backgrounds.
they are real narrative. I wish we had one big organization that could work for all of the people from Iran, not for different nations or different narratives.
And it can involve all types of artists, no matter the artist's background or their type of creative
Yeah,
expression,
of course.
whether it's poetry or art or,
Mm.
yeah, difference. So, okay. I'll see you the next time we get there.
We will see.
No, but it's funny that you're talking about art because there was another poem.
Oh.
Yes. Because broken hearts are like art, difficult to understand and impossible to forget. Oh, that is so nice. And so you wrote that poem, and then I saw the cover of your book, which is called Inner Compass. And on the cover, it's somebody holding a woman's face and mouth, but also at the same time while she's handing her heart over. And I thought, oh my God, it is just such a match to that poem. And I think I've been through a divorce, I've been through so many different things. I can really relate to that. Please tell me a bit of story about behind those three lines.
Well, I think you can't be a poet without having your heart broken several times.
Now we're getting to the good bit.
But I'm always a believer. I think we will be tested in life, and we will get our heart broken, and we will be in love, and we will be out of love.
Have you been?
Yeah, I think
When was the last time?
maybe it's going on still. I don't know. We will see. No, for sure. I think love. It's like something that go with us. We will be able to love different people in different phases in our life. And this cover I special ordered from a very very talented artist whose name is Naska Khas. She is actually a researcher in every day. But she also have this really nice way of writing and no drawing. And I told her about the book and my project, and I said I want a picture like this. And she usually have this like way of drawing, and she really catch it the way I want it. Yeah.
Okay. Why did you want it like that? I mean, it's very graphic, it's very literal. And tell me about the hands covering the eyes and the mouth.
For me, it's like that. I'm coming from a collective cultural way of thinking, where as a woman you have to be careful about your words. You have to think about what other people mean about your words, your way of living. And I think this book says about that even if the society, the culture, the traditions try to keep you back, to shut your mouth, to shut your eyes, and try to minimize you as a human. It's important to follow your heart. It's like I give my heart out there, and what I wrote in this book, I think it's like um, a different way of writing, because I write about to be able to find happiness with yourself first. Where in my culture, in the Middle East in general, as a woman, you have to you are happy when your family is happy. But I think for me, it's like my happiness is my own. I have to be happy for me first, before I can be happy for others.
That's a
Yeah.
very interesting point because on the Western culture, there's this craze about self care, self wellness, spoil yourself. And it's all about the individualistic self care and self happiness. And like you said, at the same time, there's the other side of it, which is also another side of your personality and your upbringing, which is I'm happy because they are all happy. So, which how do you balance those two, like literally, practically? Like, for example, I love to book ridiculously expensive hotels once every 2 months, even though I probably shouldn't go and I'll stay for one night. That's my way, you
I
know what I
think I will
mean?
join you next time. There you have me too. No, I love exercising too and traveling. I love traveling, and I think I have found the thing for me. I haven't traveling so much alone. When I did it the first time, I think I loved it. I loved it a little bit too much, so I think I will be doing that a little bit more.
Oh,
It's difficult to find this balance, my happiness, because I believe in this that happiness is about to be sure about who you are, to feel safe in your body, in your mind, in your everyday. At the same time, for me, happiness is also to see my children be happy. It's also to see how I can give back to the society, how I can maybe try to change, to make a good change for other people. So happiness can be so much, but I believe when we are in a safe place in ourselves as individuals, we will be more able to also be better support for other people, maybe more happy for what other people will achieve or try to or seeking for achieving. Yeah.
what advice could you give any young Kurdish woman, girl, or not even Kurdish from Iran, that's not feeling safe?
Mm.
You know, how can we psychologically find a safe space within us? I know I do it through drawing
Mm.
or painting or designing. So, what advice would you give someone that maybe doesn't have access to do that immediately?
I think find your people, because find someone you can trust, you can rely to. I have friends that has been really a big part of my inner personal journey. They have supported me. They have heard me crying. They have seen me jumping of happiness when I have achieved a dream. They have get all the versions of me. So I think find someone that believe in you, whatever you do. Find someone that really care about you, that you care about, and that you have common way of life or share the same values. I think it's important to connect in some way, and also be curious about life. Go out there, try different things. Art or writing or drawing is not for everyone, but I think reading is for everyone. Everyone should read, because it gives you the access to a whole different world, and it's like a way of searching information, knowledge, and to get to know different parts of yourself, through reading. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to reading, the Middle East is very famous for having some of the best poets in history. Tell me some of your favorites and which ones have you read and someone that's inspired you.
Oh, I have. I think it will be some Kurdish ones actually.
Yeah.
Mama Stahajar. It's like very Kurdish, famous Kurdish poet. Hemen. Uh, they are like very old classics, but I have them in my at my living room, and I love reading them. And it's a whole different way writing in Kurdish. It's like the Kurdish language is really rich on poetry. So for me,
In what way? Are there more words in the
yeah,
language?
of course, yeah.
Okay.
Even names means different things in Kurdish, you know. We have poetry names. And also in Persian, we have a lot of more poetry words. And the whole, it's like the poetry language is different from the everyday language.
Okay. Can you give me an example? Can you say a sentence in English and then explain to me how it's different in Kurdish? I know I'm really putting you on the spot. But I'm
Well,
just so curious about what you're saying. Because I know in English, I also felt the way in English and Norwegian. In English, there's many more words in the dictionary.
yeah.
And I felt like, how do I say something's incredibly nice? I'm like, storflott. Or like, someone's like, that's not a word. It's not a phrase, not a thing. I'm like, it should be. There's not enough phrases to
It's not
put
enough,
words
yeah.
together.
Well, I can start with my name actually,
Yeah.
because in Kurdish, if you say Avin Tom, which means I'm in love with you. Avin, in Norwegian we say Avin, Avin means love. It's like very poetry word, you know.
Ah,
It like this little makes the huge difference.
that is
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
So I don't I couldn't keep, so yeah, I didn't come
I
with
think you gave the
anything so
best example,
quickly, you
your
know.
own name. That's fine. So when it comes to your book, Inner Compass, are all the poems in Norwegian?
Yes,
Yes.
in this.
Would you like to choose one of your favorite poems and read it for us and tell us a bit about it?
Oh, yeah. We'll see.
I'm really putting her on the spot today.
Okay. This one, I think says a lot about what this book is about.
Okay.
Og mot alle odds fant jeg lykken igjen, uten å måtte gå lenger enn å se innover meg selv. And yeah, difficult to translate in English, but I will try. Against all of the odds, I managed to find my happiness again without go further than looking inside myself or in myself. Yeah.
I think we can all relate to that. Okay, we don't have that much time left, but my last question, because I love solo travel, the same. I discovered it when I was 16 years old, going to visit family that lived 20 hours away. And I thought this is the best thing. I never found home for 4 weeks. Like, that was it. And then years and years later, after I got divorced, had to find this courage from that 16-year-old girl and book these trips. And I was like you, once I did it the first time, I was like, everyone should be doing this. But I want to ask you the question, how common is it for an Iranian woman to travel alone? And what advice would you give to those that want to do it but are scared to do it?
It's actually very difficult to answer that because I have been traveling also as voluntary. I worked as a volunteer in northern York, the Kurdish area, for 2 months. When I'm looking back, I was like, maybe I was taking too many risks. So be young when you do things like stuff like that. But no, just I think we have to try. Maybe start with some place not so far away at the beginning, just a weekend, like a couple of hours away from where you live, and then try to extend this.
Yeah, they can come to Halden.
Yeah, maybe that, or yeah, Strömstad, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, because when you change the area where you live, it make a change in you, you know. It gives you a new perspective of things, of life. When you go outside of your comfort zone, which I already did when I was traveling for I was like sitting in the plane. I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I got this, like, yeah, I was doing therapy to myself, you know, because it was really difficult at one moment. But at the same time, when I arrived, I was like, whoa, this is fun. I want to do this more. So when you do this first time, it's scary, but put yourself out there and have believe in yourself.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Please tell us about your book, where people can find you, and your Instagram handle, because Avin has beautiful poems on Instagram in both Norwegian and English and Kurdish.
I know on this one. This is Kurdish.
Okay,
This is
that's
Norwegian
coming
and
just now.
yeah. Yeah, it's in English and Norwegian basically. Well, I have my Instagram. It's in my name, Avin Rostami, and there is a link to my book there, which also is available on Libris and all the different Norwegian bookshops. But it can also be, they can also connect me, like take contact with me directly on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I feel like it's beautiful to get a personal perspective and a real experience insight into what's been happening in Iran, and also from the perspective of an artist and a creative person. I think that's very important. There's one thing to get a political perspective, but it's another thing to really, get a perspective where you manage to capture what's happening in words and feelings in just a few sentences. I think that's absolutely a fantastic talent.
So if you feel you also have this talent and are also a poet at heart, and maybe find yourself in a difficult circumstance or have memories of a painful childhood and are not sure how to use them, contact Avin, contact myself, use your words, use your experience to put into beautiful poetry, and then you can also use it to support a cause that you believe in. So if you want to know more about how you can support the cause, contact us, contact Avin, or find something that you truly believe in. Use your words, use your passion, use your creativity as a tool for good and as a tool for human rights and giving voice to people that don't have the chance to speak for themselves. Share this podcast, like it, comment. It does help us to reach more people and to also know that, the stories are getting out there and spreading themselves across the world. Thank you so much.